The best and the brightest used to run for office in America. Men of achievement, war heroes, businessmen, public servants from great American families. They debated the issues and campaigned hard for your vote. You had to be on your A game.
Have a baby. I need to kiss. Like that's my baby to kiss.
No, excuse me. Excuse me, please.
Oh, you don't take a swing at my hair.
But everything's changed. Politics isn't about persuasion anymore. For Democrats, it's about, do they have enough power to pump up the ballots and drag a victim across the finish line? The less fit you are for office, the better. They'll just fling you into the back of a van like you're a side of beef, like they did with Hillary. But she couldn't walk, but hey, she was a woman, and that's who Barack wanted to succeed him. And if you're too scared of COVID and you can't get a crowd and you can't handle the press, they'll bury you into a bunker and zoom you into the White House, just like they did with Joe. And then came along John Fetterman, who wasn't senatorial timber to begin with. And then the poor guy had a stroke, took the summer off, and delivered the worst debate performance in American political history.
Here's what I think we have to fight about inflation here right now. That's what we need to fight about, inflation.
There is that 2018 interview that you said, quote, I don't support fracking at all. So how do you square the two?
I do support fracking, and I support fracking, and I stand and I do support fracking.
But we were told everything was fine, and John Fetterman would get better, even though he couldn't hear what anybody was saying.
We did find that in small talk before the interview, without captioning, it seemed it was difficult for Fetterman to understand our conversation. Walk me through why we need the closed captioning, how it works.
Yeah, it's really just how things happen, because I sometimes will hear things in a way that's not perfectly clear. So I use captioning, so I'm able to see what you're saying.
So the Democrat nominee for U.S. Senate barely makes sense and needs to drag around a translation machine to understand English. But former President Barack Obama and current President Joe Biden vouched for him. A quack doctor vouched for him. The media vouched for him, even though we all could see he was deficient. Fetterman was their wet market. It had to be him. Even Fetterman knew he was busted up, but they made him lie to you.
I don't think it's going to have an impact. I feel like I'm going to get better and better every day. And by January, I'm going to be, much better. And Dr. Oz is still going to be a fraud. There really isn't anything that's going to stop me from doing this job.
Well, that wasn't true. As I speak, Fetterman is not doing his job. He has been stopped from doing his job, which is to represent the people of Pennsylvania in the United States Senate. Where is the guy the Democrats promised would be fit to serve by now? Well, that guy has spent the majority of his brief Senate career checked into a hospital. Senator Fetterman couldn't even make it through a Democratic retreat without being rushed to the ER. The next day, Fetterman's staff said his heart's fine. But what they didn't tell us was that doctors diagnosed Senator Fetterman with severe depression and recommended that he receive treatment. The Democrats didn't want us to know that a key senator was severely depressed. But we found out days later when Fetterman had to check himself into the hospital for depression, where Fetterman remains today, still over 2 weeks later. A U.S. senator with a bad heart and severe depression has been institutionalized for the last 2 weeks, with the Senate balance of power at 51-49. Is the Senate balance of power now 50-49? Nobody will tell us. His Senate office tells us he's fine. They say he's been meeting with staffers and getting briefed. Well, we hope that's true, kind of. But, is that really the best way to recover? Or are they just telling us that to keep up appearances? But here's the thing. No one's seen or heard from the senator in weeks. Now, usually when these kind of things happen, we get a video saying, hey, guys, thanks for your well wishes. I'm feeling better. Hope to be back at work soon. The Philadelphia Eagles made it to the Super Bowl and then lost on the last drive because of a controversial flag. Does the senator from Pennsylvania want to say something about his Eagles? I mean, that's easy politics. You're an Eagles fan, right, John? Or what about something more serious? A rich Pennsylvania teenager executed a cop in cold blood last week in Philly. Is your office going to put out a statement about cop killers? I don't know if the Fetterman office has heard, but a train wrecked toxic chemicals in Ohio, and tons of toxins are wafting through the air across state lines into Pennsylvania. Usually, senators would be holding press conferences and demanding action. President Biden claims he spoke to both governors and senators of the affected states. Did President Biden speak to Fetterman? It's not like John Fetterman is incapacitated. He's depressed. And Primetime takes depression seriously. It can be a debilitating condition, and we don't take it lightly. But the senator's depression and institutionalization has completely prevented him from functioning at all. He's not serving the people of Pennsylvania at all in any way. Republicans in Pennsylvania are being forced to ask for proof of life.
He's not doing his job. He has to be present to vote. He has to work on legislation. He has to interact with other senators. I want to hear from my senator. He's my senator, too. I want to hear from him. I want to know that he's okay. And if he's able to visit with friends and families and his family, then why can't he go on camera? Okay? Is that too much to ask?
Well, it's not too much to ask. CNN reports that depression has kept Fetterman from eating, from drinking water, and even taking care of his personal hygiene. Fetterman is unable to care for himself. And the reason he was rushed to the hospital for lightheadedness is because he hadn't fed himself all day. The man's lost a significant amount of weight. Look at his shirt collar in this photo. I mean, some of these photos, guy looks gone. The New York Times says all of this has taken a real physical and psychological toll on Fetterman. Less than a year since the stroke transformed him from someone with a large stature that suggested machismo into a physically altered version of himself. I mean, Fetterman used to chase blacks out of towns with shotguns. And now the New York Times reports that the senator is frustrated at times that he's not yet back to the man he once was. He has had to come to terms with the fact that he may have set himself back permanently by not taking the recommended amount of rest during the campaign. So Fetterman didn't follow the doctor's orders. He followed the Democrats' orders instead. Now look at him. And now he's permanently damaged, and the people of Pennsylvania are down a senator. Democrats may have caused a man irreversible damage in order to win a Senate seat. They never cared about him. He was just a way of getting them what they wanted, power. And now that he's been institutionalized in bed all day, surrounded by doctors, they're hanging him out to dry. They say he's brave for leaving work. He's brave for going to the hospital. He's brave for saying he's depressed. The Democrats put Fetterman in the hospital, and then they call him brave. And no one visits him. And after John checked himself into the hospital, his wife, Giselle, took the kids and flew to Canada.
Went ziplining over the falls, and August got stuck. They're trying to rescue him now.
The New York Times reports Fetterman's staffers are more worried about how they're going to get him out for caucus and committee meetings and how he's going to appear at public White House events. They don't care about how he's actually doing. They care about how all of this looks. They don't care about the people of Pennsylvania, where Fetterman's supposed to be representing. They care about keeping a lid on this scandal, and that's what this is. This is a giant scandal. The Democrats basically crippled this man for power. They cheated him out of his recovery, missed every sign that he was struggling, ignored every sign, lied about it. The man could be suicidal for all we know. He's been institutionalized. He's been pumped full of drugs. Pennsylvania voters are wondering if he's still alive. There's been no video of him. His office doesn't even talk about anything that's going on in Pennsylvania. And we're supposed to wait and wait and wait until they lie to us again.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.